Good morning, everyone, and welcome along to the Blood Red Morning Bulletin. We are live on the Blood Red YouTube channel and Liverpool.com. Of course, this show is live every weekday from 10 a.m, the place to be for all the latest Liverpool FC news, transfer rumours and updates. I'm today joined by Andrew Beasley. Andrew, been a while since I've done one of these with you. How's things?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm glad the international break is basically over, as I'm sure we all are, and looking forward to getting stuck back into, obviously the Premier League action. Bit annoyed Liverpool have got the early game after the international break. That seems to happen a bit too often for our liking, I think. But that's the way it's gone. So, interesting game tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that one after the September transfer window, summer transfer window slams shut in September, always feels like a long one, doesn't it? Because you want to see the new players in action as much as possible, not have 2 weeks without them. And of course, as you say, Liverpool are guaranteed to be the early kickoff without fail every time after, you can almost assure. But yeah, today, everyone, we're going to be taking a look at Liverpool's opponents this weekend, Wolves. We've, of course, got the Blood Red podcast going out later today with a big preview. But we thought we'd take a specific look at Liverpool's opponents today. So, Andrew, lots of people predicted Wolves to basically be doomed from the start of the season. Lots of off-field troubles. Obviously, Julian Lopetegui was out the door before the season had even started. They've not been as terrible, though, as everyone thought, have they?
No, they haven't, certainly. I mean, it's certainly been a strange season. I mean, obviously, they lost that first game at Man United. I think, everyone was impressed with how they played. As you say, probably weren't expecting that. I think most people say that they should have had a penalty right at the end, so probably got a point from that game. They then played Brighton, which is their only home game so far, and they were 4-0 down inside 55 minutes, which is obviously not what you want in your first home game of the season. Brighton are a good team. There's no mistake about that, but clearly that was a bit of a nightmare for them. They then won at Everton with a late goal, and then they lost at Crystal Palace, which again, tough place to go, as the cliche says, but not a great result. So they've had a real mixed bag of a season so far.
I mean, yeah, I was looking at the results myself, and I'm still baffled that they didn't get a penalty against Manchester United. There was the VAR leak, wasn't there, with the microphones of the referee and the assistant. You could hear their conversation. I just don't know how on earth they didn't even review it. I mean, yeah, really, really strange one there. I think they deserved a point, to be honest, in that game. They caused Man United a lot of problems, actually, particularly Mateus Cunha. I was really impressed with him. Didn't see too much of him last season, but, Brazil, I think he's played a couple of times for Brazil. Atletico Madrid, former player, really, really talented one. Of course, Everton, and probably the main result of that, they are really dreadful. But let's move on, shall we? Because they've lost. So Liverpool last season played them. It was probably the worst Liverpool season for a long time, and it's probably the worst game of that season, wasn't it? Because they got absolutely battered, Andrew. I mean, 3-0 down. I can just remember Joel Matip. They normally do that kickoff, don't they, where they play it back, go along to the corner. He just put it straight out of play on the halfway. A bit of a metaphor for the game. Can you expect a different game this time around? Because they are a completely different entity, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. And the thing is, I was, I knew we were going to be talking about this today, and I was sort of thinking about last season. And I think it probably was the worst performance of the season in a season littered with them for Liverpool. You have to remember that going into that game, Wolves had played 20 league games and scored 12 goals. Barely more than a goal every other game. And then they're 2-0 up inside about 10 minutes against Liverpool. And as was often the case last season, Liverpool started poorly. They sort of rallied a little bit after half-time, but it never really looked like they were going to get back in the game, and then Wolves added a third. So I think that was possibly the worst performance of last season. What obviously makes it a slight concern with an eye on tomorrow is that Van Dijk missed that game, and we know he's going to be missing tomorrow. It was Matip and Gomez at centre-back last season. I think it was this year. And as you say, Matip scored an own goal. Now, from what we've seen, training pictures and stuff going around on social media, it looks like Konaté's maybe ready to come back in. But if he's not, and it's Matip or Gomez, well, that's the same pair that struggled there last season.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of divert our attention away from Wolves, we obviously know that Trent is almost indefinitely not going to play in this match. How would you set up your Liverpool defence for tomorrow then? What would you be going Gomez at right back? Who would you be putting at centre back in that case? Are you risking Konaté?
Well, obviously, it's hard to say without knowing the sort of situation regarding Konaté. Obviously, Klopp's press conference at lunchtime today will probably give us a better insight into that. I mean, I'm certainly hoping he's available, obviously. I mean, I think I probably would go Gomez at right back, then Konaté and Matip, assuming Konaté plays. if Konate can't play and if Trent is out, then clearly you've got a bit of a problem there, and not one that's easy to sort of resolve, because in years gone by, you might have put Milner there. Jordan Henderson played games at right back when sort of emergency situation and stuff like that. So, yeah, it is a bit of a tricky one. It's sort of fingers crossed. I mean, I guess he could maybe go Gomez, Matip and Quansah, but I mean, that's a big ask for young Quansah. I mean, he's looked decent enough in his sort of cameo appearances, but, you know, lunchtime, first start away from home wouldn't be ideal. So fingers crossed Konate's available, and I think, it probably would be Gomez at right back.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you. Obviously, I think we'd all be putting Konate in if he was available, but let's say he's not, hypothetically. I mean, this could be a completely useless exercise, as we'll find out in Klopp's press conference, as you say. But would you go with Jarrell Quansah? He's played, I believe, in League One or League Two with Bristol Rovers last season. He must be hardened up to some extent by that. Or would you maybe even give Conor Bradley a chance at right back and have someone who can actually probably be better on the ball than Gomez and maybe slot into that inverted Trent role?
Yeah, obviously he's another option. I mean, I think Klopp's always been unafraid to sort of throw young players in. So he probably thinks Quansah's ready, and so if he has to play him, I think he'll probably play him. I think if you sort of look at Wolves' strengths, and this played a part in the game last season. Like I noticed they've got 4 assists from crosses this season already, and nobody else in the league has more than 2. And bear in mind, Wolves have scored 4 goals, so they've basically all come from crosses. Perfect game for Van Dijk. Real pity that he's not going to be there for this one. So Klopp's got to pick his team that I think that appears to be Wolves' main line of attack. So he's got to pick a team that can deal with that. And as we say, injuries may be forcing his hand on that. But that's the main line of attack from Wolves. So that's what we've got to be wary of. I think he would probably rather not start Quansah if he can, but at the same time, everything we can see suggests he's got a lot of faith in him. So, if he's going to be playing Europa League games, well, is there much difference between a Europa League game and Wolves in the sort of lower reaches of the Premier League? There probably isn't. Now, this is more important. I think most people would agree. Obviously, we had a comment there, serious keeping up with City, 3 points is a must. I think this is a game Liverpool need to be looking to win. But at the same time, it isn't the most difficult game. If you take away the fact that it is away from home at 12:30, something they struggled with last season, Wolves are still one of the weaker teams in the division, even if they've sort of impressed people more than they thought. I mean, we have to remember, yes, they won 1-0 at Everton, but I think Everton had 4 or 5 clear-cut chances in that game. I forget the exact number. Yeah, Everton really should have won that game. Just, Everton's problem has been putting away chances. They've had more clear-cut chances than most teams in the Premier League, which you wouldn't believe if you looked at how few goals Everton have scored. But if Everton can have 5 clear-cut chances against Wolves, all right, they're at home. But really, Liverpool should be able to score enough goals that even if they can't keep a clean sheet with a patched-up defence, they should be able to score enough goals to still win the game. But as we saw last season, far too often last season, if Wolves get ahead, Liverpool are going to have a problem because the crowd will be on their side. Can they recover from that? They've shown they can. Liverpool have gone behind to Bournemouth and Newcastle this season and won both games. But you don't want to be doing that week after week after week.
Yeah.
Your luck's probably the wrong word, but you're not going to be able to do that every week, as we definitely saw last season. So I think if Liverpool get the first goal, they'll be fine tomorrow. I think if they go behind, they've got a problem potentially.
Yeah, I mean, as you say there, the attacking prowess Liverpool have, it should be no problem getting past that Wolves defence, because I think the defence specifically is one of the worst in the league. But it's interesting you say that stat there. I mean, was it 4 goals directly from crosses? I mean, we knew the direct threat Wolves have and the long ball threat they've got. No doubt it's going to be probably Sasa Kaladzic up front tomorrow, 6'7", massive player. Maybe we can get Nat Phillips back on loan for a game and just play him and Matip. But yeah, I think we were saying at the start of the season, weren't we? There were going to be times where this inverted fullback system, you were going to have to revert to having an orthodox back 4. I think this is probably one of those games, and having Joe Gomez at right back is almost a good thing in that sense, because if you can nullify and stop that threat from out wide with the direct crosses, then I think you're on to a bit of a winner, to be honest, with that one, nullify Wolves' main goal threat. But I wanted to move on, Andrew, basically. So going back to Wolves, they've got no Ruben Neves this season. Obviously, he's dotted off to Saudi Arabia to earn that big bank, basically. And Mateus Nunes as well, who's just left for Manchester City. I mean, Nunes in particular was a Liverpool target, wasn't he? Do you think Liverpool have maybe missed a trick, not going for either player? And how do you think Wolves will maybe get on without, losing basically the heartbeat of their midfield?
I'm really sorry. I think my Wi-Fi went down there. I don't think I heard any of the question. You were saying something
basically saying about Mateus Nunes and Ruben Neves both leaving Wolves and the impact that'll have on Wolves. And then also, do you think Liverpool have maybe missed the trick not going in for either player?
Well, possibly. I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because I think we've all been impressed with the midfield signings that they've made so far. I mean, Szoboszlai's already looking like a sort of cult hero, could potentially be Liverpool's player of the season. And obviously McAllister's been fine. I mean, I suppose a big question as well is, are we going to see Ryan Gravenberch tomorrow? I suspect not from the start, but clearly, Liverpool fans will want to see what he can deliver, because he was very good for Ajax, didn't really get much of a chance for Bayern. I mean, if you look at his numbers from last season, it looks like he did a good job when he played, but obviously, Bayern do dominate most of their matches, so it's sort of hard to get a read on that. But, he's an option. But like you say, the players the Wolves have let go, you could see a world in which Liverpool had signed them. But at the same time, I mean, personally, I'm happy with the players that they have signed. So I don't feel like they've bought players that are inferior to the ones that the Wolves have let go. Just that you could imagine them having moved to Liverpool when Liverpool needed their big midfield rebuild. But as I say, I'm certainly happy with the business that they've done in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you think as well, we're obviously previewing Jurgen Klopp's press conference. I don't think Thiago Alcantara is just ready yet, but he's back at the training ground. And of course, Stefan Bajcetic, Andrew, had a couple of minutes, didn't he, with the Spanish under-21s. Would you like to see Stefan maybe get a little cameo in this game, or are you going to wait and save him till he's 100%?
I mean, it would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, I think, this sort of thing gets talked about a lot before games. You sort of think like, well, if we're 3-0 up after an hour, we can make a few changes, give the guys a few run out. It very rarely works like that, does it? I mean, one thing in potentially in Liverpool's favour, I think if you look at Wolves games, the goals they have scored have tended to come late. So they're not fast starters. If Liverpool could take advantage of that, get a few goals on the board, then ideally, yes, let's bring on Gravenberch and Bajcetic or whatever, or one or the other, and sort of see what they're made of at the moment and things like that. It probably is a touch too soon for Bajcetic. I mean, he's been on the bench for Liverpool, and as you say, a few minutes for the under-21s and stuff like that. But obviously, we're all hoping he'll be back sooner rather than later. And obviously, I suspect, Europa League starting up, we may see him there more than we see him in the Premier League, certainly in the next couple of months. But that, that's still fine. I mean, that's, great just to get him back on board, because, he impressed everybody last season, and we want to see him develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Hopefully we see Bajcetic back. And actually, I think the Europa League may be the opportunity for that as well, to get his minutes back. And he's not played since March. So really good to see him playing for the Spanish under-21s. But yeah, we'll wrap up the show there, everyone. A bit of an interesting preview then. Wolves, a sort of unknown entity, I suppose, of that direct goal threat. Of course, the dreaded early kickoff. Hopefully Liverpool can put that one to bed now, because last season that was just so painful. Match after match in that white kit in the early kickoff. Got it. The flashbacks now. But yeah, we've got Jurgen Klopp's press conference coming up right here on the Blood Red channel. Everyone, make sure you subscribed and sticking around with us for that one. Lots of interesting talking points, hopefully, for Jurgen to clarify for all of you supporters. And then, of course, we've got the Blood Red podcast going out later on the Blood Red channel and whatever platform you get your podcast from. But yeah, for now, I've been Patrick Smith, joined by Andrew Beasley. Thank you for joining us on the Blood Red Morning Bulletin. Back again next week, every weekday at 10 a.m.